Hello, I am Professor Kino and welcome to my Office of Cinematic Antiquity. Today we will be talking about sophomore efforts are always challenging, especially after an extremely well-received directorial debut. And while sometimes a director's second film can be better than their first, such as, arguably at least, Tarantino going from Reservoir Dogs to Pulp Fiction, Wes Anderson going from Bottle Rocket to Rushmore, and even Damien Chazelle going from Guy and Madeline on a park bench to Whiplash, a lot of the time this isn't the case. Not to say that follow-up films are always bad, but they tend to not be as good as their respective director's debut. And this brings us to Jordan Peele's Us. After Peele made his debut Get Out back in 2017, it was extremely well received, won an Oscar, and made my top 10 movies of the year list. The way that it tackled social and racial issues, i.e. what it's like to be black in the US today, while simultaneously being an effective thriller, made it smart, fun, unique, and engaging. And every part of it felt meticulously crafted to fit its theme. So when Peele's second film was announced, Us, of course I was going to be excited about it. And now that I've seen it, was this sophomore effort a step down from Get Out, or was it more in the vein of Tarantino, Anderson, and Chazelle's follow-ups? Premise. What is supposed to be a relaxing family vacation soon turns into a home invasion when creepy doppelgangers or replicas of the family break into their house and try and assert their dominance. Writing. Jordan Peele had big aspirations for this film. While Get Out was ambitious in its themes, Us is even bigger. Where Get Out focused solely on what it's like to be black in America, Us ups the ante by exploring what it means to be an American in general, and a lot of this starts with the title of the film, Us, US, the us versus them ideology that pervades the Union, i.e. the political, economic, and social disconnects between various demographics, our numerous self-destructive tendencies, how we tend to be our own worst enemies, etc. But despite its high aspirations and multi-layered themes, Us for the most part works. Just like with Get Out, Peele balances horror, drama, and comedy well, a feat that is admirable in and of itself. Consequently, the ride as a whole is smooth and entertaining throughout. However, this isn't to say that there aren't problems. First, I didn't find Us as tight as Get Out. Since it does try to do a lot, it seems to get caught up under the weight of itself at times, and this is mostly clear in the film's presentation. There are so many ideas at work. From doppelgangers to tunnels to the Jeremiah 11:11 Bible verse to a plethora of rabbits to charities to small horror film references to even more. Us throws a lot at you and it can be a bit overwhelming and a bit cluttered feeling, and it rarely explains itself. Now I don't think that's a bad thing. I've always appreciated horror films that have an element of mystery, and I agree entirely with Stephen King when he said nightmares exist outside of logic and there's little fun to be had in explanations. They're antithetical to the poetry of fear. And when Us is being vague, I think it's its most intriguing and creepy, and for that reason alone, I think it'll go down as a classic because of the sheer amount of conversations and speculation that you can have about it. Film classes will be dissecting it for years. But this also brings me to another flaw. Twice in Us, the suspense and mystery gets halted so as to provide some exposition and explanation. I found it fine enough when it did happen, but in hindsight, I wish that the film decided to remain fully mysterious. And this brings me to the end of the film as well. On top of providing more exposition, this time at least non-verbally, the film also reveals a twist that I didn't find all that surprising, and because of that, I don't think the film fully sticks the landing. But I digress. In the end, Us is a very original film that aims big by putting some complex social commentary at its core, and it handles it well. Yes, it struggles with balancing exposition and mystery as well as providing a perfectly satisfying conclusion, but it is still a creepy, tense, suspenseful, funny, and engaging film that proves Get Out wasn't a fluke on Jordan Peele's part. Acting. The acting in Us is fantastic across the board, particularly from our core family. They are all asked to play two roles, the family members themselves and their respective doppelgangers, and the range that they all show is stupendous. First, Winston Duke. He is funny, but not in a way that feels out of place. He adds the needed levity to an otherwise serious and creepy film. Then the two kids, Zora and Jason, played by Shahadi Wright-Joseph and Evan Alex. They're equally great, both able to portray horror movie kids and effectively creepy kids simultaneously. They both got some moments to shine, and I thought they were fantastic. But the best of this crew is definitely Lupita Nyong'o. She is something else, definitely the best performance I've seen all year, and even better than a lot of performances I saw last year as well. She needs to play the most horrifying of the doppelgangers, as well as someone who is horrified by herself, often in the same scene, and she nails it, captivating and wholly entertaining. And as for the supporting cast, they are also solid and get to add some fun depth to the performances as well. However, none of them capture the excellence of Duke, Wright Joseph, Alex, or Nyong'o. Costumes, hair, and makeup. First, there are a few scenes that take place in the 80s, and the costumes, hair, and makeup in them are great. While it's nothing we haven't seen of late in the plethora of nostalgia pieces that have come out, it's still always fun to see, and we get a few cool nods to things like Thriller with it. And as for the modern day clothes and makeup, they also capture modern day nicely and have their own fair share of references sprinkled among them, such as Jaws. And as for the costumes, hair, and makeup of the doppelgangers, they are also great. They all have on red jumpsuits and carry large pairs of scissors, and just in that, there are a lot of cool things to talk about, such as the jumpsuits showcasing how the doppelgangers feel like prisoners to their original counterparts and how the scissors showcase how they want to cut their tethers to them. But I don't want to get too deep into this for fear of spoilers. But I will add that there are a couple other little aspects of the doppelgangers that are excellent, from their gaunt, shadowy, dead-looking makeup to Jason's doppelganger having some horrific burns on his face. A lot of the details you can find here act as clues to what's going on, foreshadowing things that are to come, and at times, merely adding fun little references to various pieces of pop culture. It's all great. Set design. While I never found the sets too amazing, they were good for what they were, and just like with the costumes, hair, and makeup, full of little details that acted as clues and references. From a fun fair to a really creepy mirror house, to some middle/upper class houses, to a Santa Cruz beach, to a strange and foreboding series of underground hallways, the sets were strange, effective, and while not spectacular, good at keeping the film creepy. Choreography. The choreography is not super flashy, but it is solid. A lot is merely your typical horror scuffles, such as suspenseful walks down hallways, chases, and quick swings of blunt weapons. However, what makes it all unique and engaging are the motions of the doppelgangers during them. They all move really creepily, very rigid, and on top of this, they always seem lost and confused. It was a weird, contradictory, and oftentimes creepy spectacle, and this is utilized to the fullest during the best action scene in the film, the final confrontation between Nyong'o's Adelaide and her doppelganger Red. The way Red moved about like she was dancing, continuously avoiding and countering Adelaide's advancements was really cool to watch. So all in all, nothing breathtakingly new, but with a unique enough flair to it all to make it engaging. Cinematography. Excellent across the board. A lot of it felt smooth and fluid. Never once did I feel like the camera work was designed to deliver us from scare to scare quickly. Instead, the movements of the camera built suspense up to a point where you saw what you knew would be frightening, and then the tension just kept building. Never once did I feel like I was cheated by a cheap jump scare, which can usually de-escalate tension. And a time in the film when this was done perfectly was near the beginning in a mirror house. The camera work utilized the mirrors perfectly and then built to a truly terrifying moment. But the film never allowed me to alleviate myself because it didn't give me the opportunity, it just kept building scene after scene. It was fantastic. And on top of this, there was some truly unique framing as well. One take that comes to mind was during an exposition scene near the end. One of the doppelgangers, I won't say which for the sake of spoilers, was doing a monologue, and the way that the camera positioned its head into half the frame and has his counterpart in full in the distance on the other half of the frame was fascinatingly cool, and I can't think of another film that has done camera work like this. I loved it. Editing. The editing was good. It helped to keep the film flowing at a steady pace and was able to add some effective storytelling moments. The latter was noticeable during some flashbacks, which never felt invasive thanks to the edits, and a few montages that helped showcase some twists and revelations non-verbally. Overall, the editing was solid. CGI. I'm sure some CGI was used, particularly during the final shot of the film, but it's difficult to distinguish where it all was. It was used sparingly, and it fit perfectly with the film, and because of that, it was great. Music. The music here by Michael Abels is remarkable. He uses a lot of the typical horror stuff, heavy on the strings, etc., but Abels is also able to implement his own unique flair, such as adding in some operatic sections, and using the strings in new and interesting ways. It was definitely original, and I like to think will be pretty recognizable when heard separate from the film. So the music is a step above your typical horror soundtrack. As for the licensed songs, they were mostly used for comedic moments such as "Fuck the Police," and I thought those, despite being slightly fun, could at times overstate their welcome just a tad. But there were also a couple other licensed songs that were used to help characterize our protagonists, and they worked nicely, such as when "I Got a 5 on It" was used. And there were also some creative uses of silence as well. Sometimes it felt kind of strange, particularly during more action-heavy moments, but it was a nice and unique change of pace. Direction. Jordan Peele is obviously a guy with a lot to say and a lot of cool ideas. Between this and Get Out, I'd say he is one of the most original and intriguing directors working today. The way that he is able to take ideas about politics, economics, and societal differences and make them work as thriller horror pieces is remarkable. And then on top of that, his ability to effectively add in comedy that doesn't ruin the mood is even better. And while I don't think that he fully achieves what he was hoping to with Us, I believe he gets a little caught up under all its aspirations. I think it is a damn good effort and a phenomenal sophomore feature. My enjoyment. I really enjoyed my time with Us. While I was never petrified by it, I was suitably creeped out. And the more I think about the film afterward, the more I'm understanding it and liking it. Did I like it as much as Get Out? I don't think so, but it is really close. And for that, I need to give Peele props. He did a great job here, despite me having a few small issues with the film, and I am really excited to see what comes out of his head next. Recommendations. I should start off by saying that this is not a full-blown horror film. It is not scary in the way that The Exorcist is scary. Us does have a solid creep factor to it, but it is more of the skin-crawling kind than the jump-out-of-your-skin kind. So if you are looking for a new horror phenomenon, this probably won't satiate you. Us is more focused on providing an original commentary on some big issues, such as social statuses, personal demons, and things of that nature, while being encased in an effective thriller. So if you like thrillers that have deep underlying messages at their core, you should enjoy Us. Similarly, if you thought Get Out was great, Us is more of the same, and I would recommend you check it out. And finally, if you're on the fence about this film, I recommend you give it a whirl. It is a wild and original time. Thanks for watching, I hope you liked it. If you did, leave a like. If you want to add anything, feel free to comment. If you want to see more, please subscribe. I am Professor Kino, and I look forward to our next discussion.